Introduction to Hermeneutics, presented by Matthew Kennard. We need to read the text carefully and make observations. We need to study the historical, literary context, understand what was originally meant in its biblical audience, synthesize the meaning of the passage for the biblical audience, and we need to look for grammar, themes, repetition. We need to note anything in the text that stands out, who the author is, and who are they speaking to. We need to start with the biblical audience and note the differences between the biblical audience and us. We need to identify unique aspects of their culture, of their language. What is their situation? What time are they in? What time period is this in their culture? And what covenant are they under? Are they under the covenant with Abraham, or with Moses, or with Jesus? We need to recall the differences between us and them. I need to identify similarities between the biblical audience and the contemporary. We need to hold the differences and similarities together, identifying a broad theological principle, one that would apply to the original audience and to the contemporary audience. We need to find out what is the theological principle that can be drawn from the text. Write out the theological principle using present tense verbs. The theological principle should be reflected in the text. It should be timeless and not tied to a specific situation. It is not culturally bound, and it needs to be relevant to both the biblical and contemporary audience. And finally, what does this tell us about God, and what does it tell us about us? And how do we apply the theological principle? There should be no abstract meanings. We need to make it concrete. We need to bring out the main point and apply it to specific situations of a contemporary Christian. Now, this can have multiple applications, and not just one, because Christians today find themselves in a variety of situations. But the primary application is to know who God is and to obey Him. The theological principle in a passage has meaning and application to the original audience, as well as us today, and functions as a bridge. We don't create the meaning in the text, we discover it. What does the scripture say to us? What is the scripture showing us? What is it teaching us? How is it leading us? We need to search it out, dig it up, like digging in a mine, searching for gold. Once you find the vein of gold, you dig that vein out. You don't make the gold up and then search for things that will support it. We discover it. One way to do this is to imagine a map that has two towns in it with a river that separates the towns. First, we grasp the text in their town. What did the text mean to the original audience? What was their culture like? What was their time frame? Why was that spoken to them? And then we need to measure the width of the river to cross. What are the differences between the biblical audience and us? We need to cross the principalizing bridge. What is the theological principle in this text? What theological principle applies to them and to us in this text? And then we need to consult the biblical map. How does our theological principle fit with the rest of the Bible? And finally, we need to grasp the text in our town. How should individual Christians today live out the theological principle? And this has been Introductions to Hermeneutics with Matthew Kennard. Thank you.